WCCS friends and family. This is our first night of our live interviews celebrating our We Love WCCS week, where we are inviting all of our WCCS friends and family and neighbors to just celebrate what God is doing at our school, to share your testimonials on your personal Facebook pages and social media channels, and join us as we get to talk and have conversation with different folks around our school community about what our school means to them. So I want to welcome some special guests tonight. We have a group of administrators that are joining us tonight. And when we go through our conversation, I hope that you will engage with us, share a like, share a love as we welcome our guest and as we have our conversation tonight. We have our very own head of school, Scott Dillon. Scott is joining us tonight. Scott, say a little hello to all of our friends out there.
Greetings all. Thanks so much for being here. Can't wait to visit with you.
Scott, we're so glad that you could join us tonight. We also have joining us our senior pastor from Westminster Presbyterian Church. This is our mother church that we are proud to be a ministry of. Mike Honeycutt, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And you can say a little shout out and hello to everybody.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. Even if we can't see you, we know you're out there.
Thank you, Mike. And then last but certainly not least, I want to welcome Brian Porter. Brian is our chairman of our school board. And so, Brian, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're glad that you could come on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we are excited to have you guys. So I thought we'd begin. Some of us may know you a little bit more than others, and we want to get to know you a little bit more too. So we have a series of questions that we're all going to answer tonight, but I thought each of us, if you would share your story with us. As you know, I'm the director of admissions, and this is my 9th year here at the school. I have 2 little boys that are attending. Mac is in 6th grade and Burris is in kindergarten, and they've both had a great start to the school year. Scott, as our head of school, I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your journey in Christian education and what brought you to WCCS.
Sure. Thanks again for this opportunity. My name is Scott Dillon. I have a lovely wife and 4 kiddos, 2 daughters-in-law, 1 soon-to-be daughter-in-law, 1 daughter, and 1 grandson, Jay. Have to mention Jay in all of my opportunities to speak. If I could share my screen, I'd show you a picture, but we'll hold that off for another time. But it's a great joy being at WCCS. I actually started in the world of Christian education in 9th grade. I was in a public school, kindergarten through 8th grade, went to a Christian high school and then a Christian college, and then have spent the last 31 and a half years on the other side of the desk, all in Christian schools. I was at a Christian school down in South Florida for 6, was at a school in the Charlotte area for 19, and this is my 7th year here. And it's just great to be here. One of the real draws to me for WCCS, to come to WCCS, was the like-mindedness. It was to be in a PCA church school, and one that gave us opportunity to point kids to Christ 5 days a week, to supplement what's going on at home and what's going on in the church. So that's why we're here.
Thank you for sharing that, Scott. And, I think what you started to articulate about why you're here brings me just to a great question or a great point. Christian education in general, it's often hard to articulate. It's hard to define. And could you share with us how would you define Christian education, and why do you think it's still relevant for families and communities today?
Well, I think the short answer is it's an education, it's training in the truth. And one of the reasons that I started in a Christian school in high school is my parents saw that I was starting to come up with and have kind of this dichotomy where I said that there was a church answer, a Sunday answer, and a rest of the week answer. And I think the short answer of what is Christian education is it's an education that focuses on and that relies on the fact that the Bible is true 7 days a week, not just on Sundays, And so those things that are in the Bible, those things that are true about God, those things that are true about Jesus dying for us and all of those things, but also those things true about God's creation, the way that he has revealed himself to us, those are true 7 days a week. And because they matter to us, and they need to matter to the next generation. And so that's kind of the short version of, but it's one of those things that really inspires me to want to do this, to fulfill this role, and to be a part of Christian education, to point kids to Christ 7 days a week, so that they would walk in the truth all the days of their life.
And Scott, I think it's, such a valuable thing to be able to experience Christian education as a parent, right? You've had your two kiddos here at the school, and when I see my boys coming home and, talking about, yes, math and science and history and language arts and art and PE and all of those things and how much they're learning, and then making a connection to a biblical principle that, it just blows my mind that somebody that young is doing that. And I really credit the education that they're receiving at WCCS to allow them to go deeper, to think critically, to analyze things from the world around them through that biblical perspective. And like you said, that's just such a valuable thing that you really can't, put a price on, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I'd love to get you to introduce yourself as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what has brought you to Rock Hill and to Westminster Presbyterian Church?
Yeah, sure. My wife, Judy, and I have 3 kids, and now 2 daughters-in-law and 4 grandchildren, all under the ages of 4. And we had that whole group at the beach a week and a half ago, and I call it a beautiful riot. It was chaotic the entire week, but it was a lot of fun. What brought us to Rock Hill, Westminster? Couple things, one of which for Judy and for me, it's a bit of coming home. We were living in St. Louis as I was teaching at Covenant Seminary, and which I love. But I grew up in Charlotte. Judy grew up in Conway, South Carolina, and so this is a bit of kind of coming home for us. Our parents live at the beach, and so we could be closer to them. But that wasn't the main reason. I think the main reason, as we looked at Westminster as a church, not only did it have the things you would expect that a PCA church has, but it also was clearly concerned about making a difference in the community through things like Westminster Catawba Christian School and our towers, Westminster Towers. And so the thing that I think attracted us was the fact that it seemed like it was more of a holistic approach to ministry than a very kind of strict, narrow view of what we can do as the people of God, and that's appealed to me and to Judy for a long time.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Mike. And we as a school, we feel so blessed to be a ministry of Westminster Presbyterian Church. I get a lot of questions about how many of your church's members come to our school, and there's a good 25% of our student body is made up of members of Westminster Presbyterian Church, but we also have 80 different churches represented, in our student and our family body. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about how that relationship with the church, how that's so important, maybe even the history with the school and the value behind why a school benefits from being a ministry of a church.
Well, the school was established by our session a number of years before I came to Rock Hill. And in terms of the value of this relationship, I kind of have to default to my wife here, who has taught at 2 Christian schools. And something that she has said for years, I think is really, I think makes a lot of sense. And it was something that one of her former principals really kind of spoke to a lot. And that is, he saw discipleship as a kind of 3-legged stool with the family, the church, and the school. And where those 3 things are working together rather than at odds with each other, the potential benefits there are extraordinary, because it's, there's so many conflicting worldviews right now. And if you've got family, church, and school all on the same page, similarly seeking to raise disciples who make a difference in the world, that goes a long way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Brian, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your family and what has brought you to WCCS.
Sure. Well, my family's a little different. I have 4 adopted mixed race children, and their ages 18 to 27, and 3 of those have graduated from Westminster. So it's pretty exciting. My family doesn't really stop there. I have a 5-year-old granddaughter who's also at Westminster, and I have a young lady living with us. She's the birth sister of my youngest daughter. She's living with us now, and she's enrolled as a junior at Westminster. So that's my family. How did I get to Westminster? Well, when our children were younger, we started out homeschooling because we wanted to provide just a solid biblical-based education for our kids. But as our kids got a little bit older, we thought we need some help. So we started looking around for a Christian school. It's hard to teach chemistry and things like that. And plus just having another influence over our kids. So we started looking for, a school that had good academics, was biblically focused, and was affordable. So that's kind of how we landed at Westminster. We live in kind of South Charlotte area. So, it's a short drive down to Westminster from there. And we've been loving it.
And we love having your family here. I was telling Brian before we got on, the birth sister of your youngest daughter is just singing in the halls all the time. And I just love that joy that exudes from her. So I appreciate you sharing her with us and all of your children and now granddaughter as well. And Brian, would you also tell us a little bit about the school board here at Westminster Catawba Christian School and what your role as, chairman over that school board looks like?
Sure. Well, first, I never thought about being on the school board before, but, I got approached to serve on the board and, prayed about it, thought about it, and decided it was a good opportunity for me to give back to the school. So now I've been on the board for 5 years. I guess I know a little bit about it at this point. But, the board, it's a policy board where we are responsible to set, kind of long-term planning, mission, strategy for the school. We're responsible. You could call us the moral owners of the school. We're responsible, really for the school's success and, overseeing financials and things like that, making sure the school is well run. But we don't get involved in day-to-day operations. The closest we get to that is finding and supporting our one employee, which is Scott Dillon as the head of school. So that's an important part of our job, is just being there for Scott, being somebody to bounce stuff off of, or just to pray for him and lift him up and support him and the school. But that's really it. It's a good thing to do, and I've really enjoyed being a part of the board.
And y'all do a great job of supporting and encouraging us as faculty and staff. And I think it's just been exciting in my 9 years here just to see the growth, what we're envisioning and, taking that mission of blessing our world as disciples for Jesus Christ and really putting that in action. And so I want to thank you for your service in making that happen as well. Well, great. Well, I have a group of questions that I've formulated to ask most all of my interviewees over the course of this week. And so I'm going to, get some different answers, probably some that are very similar. But the one that I'd like to start with, and I'm going to ask each of you to answer, would be, what do you love most about our school, about Westminster Catawba Christian School? Mike, I'd like to start with you tonight, put you on the spot. What do you love most about our school?
Well, I'd like to say the theater program. Every play I've seen has been phenomenal. It's just amazing what the school is able to pull off, in the singing and the acting and the production quality is just it's delightful. But that's not my favorite thing. It is one thing I love. My favorite thing, and Scott and I have talked about this a number of times, but I really appreciate the very difficult but the very intentional effort to integrate faith and learning. And that is a hard task. And it just takes years and years. And even then, there are probably different ideas. But, there are plenty of schools that are seeking to be Christian in a simple way of perhaps having a devotional at the beginning of a class. And that's a good thing. But to really try to integrate faith and learning and try to really help our students understand that, we can understand math because God is the one who put those principles into place, into work in our universe. And I just, I think, quite frankly, if we lived in a perfect world, we'd all have our faith and learning integrated so well, and the school would really contribute to that. And I just love the way the school is contributing to the understanding of that with our kiddos.
Mike, I think that's a great articulation of what we just love to do and what many families tell me makes a difference. At the supper table conversations, I've heard examples of, in a third grade science class when they were talking about the difference between chemical and physical reactions. And a student piped up and said, so when we go to heaven and our body changes, is that a chemical or a physical reaction? I mean, what a question to be able to have a child ask and think about faith and learning as if it's just naturally integrated as it should be. So
Great.
Scott, what is your favorite thing? What do you love most?
I would have to say the people. I have been so blessed by the relationships that I've built. I've had so many people that have come alongside and been so encouraging. I've had a lot of very challenging conversations and challenging relationships, but even those are ones where even in the midst of hard conversations, either I'm sharing something that's difficult with a parent or with a student, or they are with me. The long-term goal, the purpose of it is that we would honor God in what we're doing. And so I have been so thankful. I am most thankful. I love most about the school is the people that I get to serve alongside and that we get to serve. They are the ones that are nearest and dearest to my heart.
Thank you, Scott. I would agree with that for sure. Brian, what about you? What do you love most about WCCS?
Really, it's about, I think, how the teachers and the administration there just care and love on my kids. With just a genuine care that's surprising. I mean, I know we're Christian people and we love everybody, but still, when there's occasions when I'll see a teacher just go really completely out of just beyond expectations to serve one of my kids, and it's really touching, and that's what means a lot to me. And just a personal story, when my youngest daughter had some trouble with reading comprehension, she learns best if somebody speaks things to her, as opposed to if you give her a reading assignment, the words get all blurry. They don't make sense to her. So during the COVID thing last March or April, we weren't in school, and she's, trying to finish out her senior year. One of the teachers was getting online with her and reading her the textbook to her so she could hear it. And I was thinking, I mean, that's a level of commitment right there, that teacher's taking extra time. And I don't want to give everybody the idea that teacher could do that all the time, but such a commitment to my daughter and to seeing her be successful is just really impressive. And I see it over and over again. It's not just that one case. I know I could think up a dozen type of those cases that have happened over the years. So that's what I like about it, just the care that the staff gives to my children.
Absolutely. And Brian, I hear so many stories of, the way that faculty and staff have gone out of their way to show the love of Christ in the classroom through a difficult situation, and it does make a difference. So for sure. So moving on to our next question. Scott, I'm going to start with you on this one. What is one word you would use to describe WCCS and why?
Well, I would use the word community, although that seems like a really challenging word to describe anybody right now because of the COVID thing going on. But it goes back to what I was saying before. I have watched our community care for each other as a part of the church universal. But I've watched them do it in education, in the educational realm, like Brian has just shared. I've watched them do it in the integration of faith and learning, like Mike shared just a second ago. But I've watched them care so well for each other. The community, they can tell when others are in need, and they are quick to reach out. We had one of our coffees this morning with our kindergarten and first grade parents, and mostly moms are there. And I was talking to one mom who just said that that she just misses the community of the school because we can't all be together. And that was something that has meant so much to her in the past few years, and she can't wait to get that back. And I would agree. It's something that means a lot to me, and we're doing all that we can to build it in the midst of social distancing and all of those things. But I think there have been some neat opportunities for community to be built even from a distance.
Absolutely, Scott. That word community comes to mind quite a bit, and it has been challenging, during these times. And hopefully, things like these live interviews and those parent coffees and some of the virtual experiences will help with that. But certainly there's no substitute for, being able to gather. And we're looking forward to doing that again, hopefully very soon. Mike, what is one word you would use to describe WCCS?
I would say faithful. And what I mean by that is it's really obvious to me that WCCS is really seeking to be faithful, first of all, to God, of course, and but also to his scriptures, to Christian education, to God's mission. And that is just very comforting to know, very encouraging to know that there's a real sense of faithfulness to God and what he wants us to be about in this world.
That's a really great word. Thank you, Mike. What about you, Brian? What's one word you would use to describe WCCS?
It's similar to my last one, I guess. I mean, I just thought of family whenever I first was thinking about a word. And again, it gets back to just the love and the care that people have for my kids and the students here and just each other. I mean, I see it in the board too. I mean, everybody is just really working together and getting along well. Probably better than my family. I have a real family and they don't always get along, but I think that'd be my word, just because I think it describes good how the school meshes with my family. So
interestingly enough, Brian, a lot of my prospective families that come on tour with me, when they get to see what's going on in person in the classrooms in a non-COVID year, that's the word that comes to their minds is this really feels like a family. The teachers care about and know these students by name. The students are friendly, and get along with each other. Even the idea of a small community, like you said, for better or worse, sometimes in family, that allows you to work through those conflicts and those difficulties together. So I would agree. That's a great word. All right, let's see. Next question. How do you feel Westminster Catawba Christian School is preparing students for what God has for them next? And let's see, Brian, I don't think I've started with you yet. I'd love to see how you would answer this question.
I think the thing about Westminster is they look to educate the whole person. It's not just academics. It's spiritual based as well. It helps children have a worldview that's biblically based, that's God-centered. And when I say well-rounded, I mean my kids have experienced things at Westminster that, I don't know where they could have got other places. Like being a small school, there's lots of opportunity too for children to do different things. So my children were in theater, and they learned things there that they would probably never have gotten the chance to do outside of Westminster. My kids were able to play sports. So a lot of things like that just, I think, contribute to them being well-rounded. And you want a school that's strong in academics, but I don't think you want to, be too far swing to it's all academics, because it's not. You want to have just a well-rounded perspective in life. And I used to think when I first had kids, all my kids need to go to college. But then as some of my kids got older, I thought, no, that's just not. Sometimes you have a child, it's just not for them. They don't want to do that, and that's okay. And I think at Westminster they've been able to kind of explore that whole person, and not, if they want to go to college, that academic background is there, they can. But should they choose a different path in life, that's okay, and that's supported as well. And I think that's what I think about it. So,
thank you, Brian. What about you, Mike? How do you feel like WCCS is preparing students?
A couple of things come to mind for me. Something that it was just mentioned was just helping our students understand a biblical, worldview. That's so important. They're going to get confronted. They're already confronted with all kinds of different views of what life is about. And when they leave high school and whatever they do next, they're going to be presented with lots of competing worldviews. And to be grounded in a biblical worldview makes a big difference. I can't help but think of the sadness of folks who are not grounded in that and go off to college and have some of their professors kind of dismantle that pretty easily. And so that's one thing I so appreciate about WCCS. I think another thing, though, I'll just tell a brief story. In college, I went to the Philippines with Campus Crusade, and they would put us intentionally in places of leadership to kind of make us think about being leaders. And to be honest with you, I don't think I had really thought about being a leader until they put me in a position where I had to lead. And I think one of the things about WCCS is that through whether it's local mission efforts or the desire that we have, Scott and I have talked about a number of times, to go do something together overseas. I think what WCCS can do with our students and is doing is helping them see that they can be leaders. They can make a difference now. They don't have to wait until they're adults. God calls them to use the gifts, the experiences that he's given them now to make a difference. I would say leave their mark on the world, but hopefully leave Christ's mark on the world. And
Sure.
That's really encouraging to see that taking place.
Absolutely. What about you, Scott? How do you feel like our school is preparing students?
I'm going to piggyback on what both Brian and Mike have said, and actually answer by saying that it's more than just what's next. It's what's after that, and then what's after that. Mm-hmm. Our students are going to finish at WCCS. Most of them will be 18 years old. And what's next for them is going to be a couple years, 2 or 3 or 4 years somewhere. But Lord willing, they will have 60 or 70 years in front of them to live. And then they will, Lord willing, live forever in heaven. So I actually like to look at the end backwards. And I think that I appreciate the fact that we seek to be intentional in preparing them for heaven, and then for a life of walking with God. I think every time I've spoken, I've mentioned 3 John verse 4. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. But that's not just when they're walking in the truth when they're children. It's that they would walk in the truth all the days of their lives. And so for our students to be learning in high school what it means to be engaged at church, what it means to be a good husband or wife, what it means to be a good son or daughter or a parent, what it means to be an employee, what it means to be a churchman, what it means to serve, to care well for those around them, to literally bless the world as disciples of Christ. That's not just what's next, but it's what they will, Lord willing, do the rest of their lives. That's what we're preparing them for. We are preparing them for college or whatever is next, but I hope it's beyond that. They're with us for a lot more years than just to prepare them for that very next step.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, this has been a great conversation. I hope that y'all have enjoyed this and just hearing from each other as much as I have. I do want to give a shout out. We've had some comments that have come in. John Edward Kruger is joining us tonight and says he could not have imagined going to another school outside of WCCS. John Edward, we could not imagine not having you here with us. So thank you for joining us tonight. Deanna Thorpe, thank you for joining us. She says, we love WCCS. Thank you, Deanna, and we love you too. And then Mr. Baxter Morgan, he wanted to give a shout out to Scott Dillon and the rest of the crew. Baxter, thank you so much for joining us. And Baxter is going to be on our alumni interview panel that's going to be on later this week on Thursday night at 7. And so as a reminder, we want to see you again at 7 every night this week. Tomorrow night, we are interviewing a panel of current WCCS parents. That's going to be a lot of fun. Wednesday, we'll be interviewing faculty, Thursday, alumni, and Friday, students. 30 minutes long, 7 o'clock. It'll be a great time. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, folks.